The summer camp training arc officially begins. It's got action, it's got mud monsters, it's got the wild, wild Pussycats! My Hero Academia Season 3 is back in full swing. This episode was all sorts of awesome. It also had some really great production value. In fact, the first two episodes of the third season have looked pretty solid from beginning to end, and this episode is no exception as the summer camp training arc officially begins in this episode, and they waste no time in getting to it. They also introduce some brand new characters who are just plain awesome. The Wild Wild Pussycats, a group of girls who have a theme dressed around cats, but they have unique quirks, like the ability to manipulate the earth and even transform said earth into giant monsters of pure raw destruction! Basically what I'm trying to say is, I loved this episode of My Hero Academia. Honestly, this is the episode they probably should have opened up with for Season 3, but even though the first episode was a recap, I still got a lot of enjoyment out of it. I recently rewatched it with a friend and I was like, yeah, this is basically the best recap episode that I've ever seen. But this episode right here just kicked things up to 11. Plus ultra, if you will, as the entire arc begins with all of the students meeting up, getting on the bus, and heading towards the camp. Aizawa says that they're going to take a break in about an hour, and when they do, they're actually outside in this forest. And that's when they realize, oh crap, the training camp is actually out there, and the bus isn't going to get us there. They're going to have to do it with their very own skill and power, and they're going to be tested by the Wild Wild Pussycats, who are the new characters introduced in this episode, two characters who go by the name of Mandalay and Pixie-Bob, and they're themed around cats. They're basically a combination of cats and Sailor Moon and pop idols, but they actually do have legitimate abilities. Pixie-Bob in particular, who's the one who really throws them through the ringer in their very first test at the training camp. She's able to manipulate the earth, which means she can cause massive landslides and even cause the dirt to form together into a massive living being, which she can control almost like a video game, as if she's playing like a game of Punch-Out. And she ends up just sending all of the students just flying over the edge into this forest, which she calls the Forest of Beasts, which is all just basically a name just to scare them, as she is the one who actually creates all of these monsters, which look really freaking cool, and they all have a ton of different designs. They all look really scary. Some of them fly, some of them run on four legs, some of them look like dinosaurs, some of them look like demons. But it's all an excuse for our heroes to band together and utilize each of their individual quirks to take them down, and it's a solid scene because absolutely every character gets to do something. Another reason why I love My Hero Academia, every single character is awesome and lovable in their very own way. And even the characters that I never really cared for are starting to grow on me in this episode. Like Yuga. I've never liked him. He's always been my least favorite character, but even I have to admit, he was awesome in this episode, being able to fly up in the air and fire his navel laser to destroy one of these creatures. A lot of the characters who don't get represented as much got to do some cool things in this episode, so if you're a fan of them, you're totally going to dig this one right here. I like that Hontasero, the tape guy, actually got to do some really cool things by taking one of these things down by himself. You also have what is officially going to be dubbed from now on from me, the Big Four, which consists of Izuku Midoriya, Tenya Ida, Shoto Todoroki, and Katsuki Bakugo. These are basically the top dogs of the class. I've always sort of thought that, but that's officially recognized in this episode, and seeing all of them work together to take down a creature, with Shoto freezing the legs, Katsuki and Tenya coming in, taking out the arms, and then Izuku Midoriya coming in with a big classic smash attack, is just so satisfying to see. Seeing everybody work together is just really great. Now, the funniest thing about this entire challenge, of course, is that Pixie-Bob tells them that they have to get to the training camp by 12:30, otherwise they're not going to get lunch. They have only 3 hours to make this happen. But this ends up being incredibly difficult for them, and they don't even make it until sundown. However, they are reassured that they will get to have dinner, have a bath, and get to go to bed, so that they can prepare for the real training, which begins the next day. So the first half of the episode is like all action, and seeing all these characters do all of their cool things. The second half of the episode gets into the more comedic stuff, but honestly, it still manages to work. A lot of it mostly revolves around the character of Mineta, who continues to utilize his most distinguishing characteristic of being an extreme perv. And it's the classic scene we see in anime all of the time, the hot spring scene. The girls are over here, the guys are over here, and one of the characters is going to try and sneak over the wooden wall to get himself a peek of the peaks. And that's when Mineta actually decides to climb to the top with his sticky balls, and as soon as he gets to the top, he runs into another new character who's introduced in this episode who goes by the name of Kota, who is this very angry Katsuki Bakugo-esque kid who's wearing a hat with horns, who's apparently the cousin of Mandalay, the other member of the Wild Wild Pussycats. And he just hates heroes. That's his entire story so far. He has it out for them because apparently his parents were heroes and they were seemingly killed, and he had no way to sort of process this. Being so young, he had no idea what was going on, so he grew this intense resentment and hatred for anyone who wants to be a hero, knowing that they're eventually going to die and let people down. It's a typical story for his character, and I can kind of see where his arc is going to be headed, especially with his relationship with Izuku Midoriya. Izuku's actually the one who reaches out to Kota for the first time in this episode, which leads to, I think, the funniest scene where he just gets punched directly in the balls. It is just perfect. I think it's made even better by the fact that as soon as this is done, Tenya actually screams, "Why would you attack Midoriya's scrotum?" Kota actually ends up getting a glimpse of the girls on the other side, and if you like fan service, well, you're definitely going to like that scene. But he ends up falling over the edge and getting hurt, and that's when Izuku brings him to Mandalay to take care of him, and that's when he learns a little bit more about his tragic backstory with his parents, which I'm imagining will come to the forefront eventually. The episode comes to an end when the actual training does begin at 5:30 in the morning, and first Aizawa is going to sort of test their strength and see where they are and how far they've come in the couple of months that they've been at UA High School. And we get to see this when they do the whole ball throwing test, and Katsuki Bakugo goes first, and it's really impressive, but his distance has not really improved all that much. While technically, mentally, they have gotten stronger, they're going to have to go through the School of Hard Knocks to get even more physically stronger and being able to use their quirks in a much more powerful fashion. And that's what this whole training camp is going to be all about. So what's the rundown on this episode of My Hero Academia? So good. I'm so glad the series is back in form and we have a brand new story which is beginning. And the training camp arc has officially caught my attention with how absolutely insane it is. I can't stress how good the production value of this show is either, in just terms of the smallest moments, the background moments, just every character truly gets to shine. They don't waste animation on anyone. It's just really great. Whether it's the action scenes, which looked really fantastic in the Force of the Beast, where they're all fighting against the giant monsters, everybody had a great moment. Even Mineta, the scene where he's just pummeling this monster with his sticky balls, and then Denki comes in and jumps up on top and just shocks it. It's a really satisfying moment. Every character is great. You even get some great combination techniques with Ochako utilizing her anti-gravity abilities to touch one of the beasts. Suyu throws it up in the air with her massive frog tongue, and then boom, she releases it. It comes crashing down to the ground. These characters work individually and great together, and it's just always really fun to see. And when it's done with great animation, it looks even better. That entire sequence was really great, and it's always funny because the training sequences in this show are always so intense, and they always manage to one-up it every single time. And it opened with a landslide and fighting against monsters in a massive forest. It's just really satisfying to see. But even the smaller moments, like when they're finally sitting down to eat dinner, like, look at the expressions of some of these characters while they're enjoying this food. It's hilarious, some of which the camera does not even focus on, but it's hilarious. The bath scene is exactly the same. It's just all of these little moments which come together. There's attention to detail in the production of this show, which makes it one of the strongest, like, shonen battle anime series that I have ever seen. the quality just speaks for itself. The new characters, the Wild Wild Pussycats, I think are going to be a lot of fun. Their personalities are insane. Pixie-Bob in particular is really hyperactive, and she also seems to have a thing for young guys, which is both funny and kind of creepy. She tries to assume that she's a lot younger than she actually is. Mandalay seems like she's sort of the default leader. She's a lot calmer, more calculated, but it's implied that this is a 4-person group, so hopefully we'll get to see the other two Wild Wild Pussycats. I can't wait to see what they're going to be like and see this entire team together, and I think this would be perfect as the characters themselves are sort of an homage to Super Sentai and Sailor Moon and stuff like that. They go into big ridiculous poses, and even at the beginning of the episode when they go through their introduction, you get to see that this big paw comes out and only 2 of the 4 things like shine, so these other 2 characters have to come in, and I can't wait to see them. Also, there is a post-credit scene in this episode, so make sure to check that out. What actually happens during this scene is we get to see all of the villains from the last season returning as they're preparing to go with Tomura Shigaraki's plan. It appears that the Master, the All for One, has actually figured out where the training camp is, and they're going to be sending these villains there to sort of shake things up. We get to see the return of Himiko Toga, as well as Dabi, as well as a few other new people. This one big dude in a cloak, who I'm guessing is probably going to be the guy in the intro that Izuku is actually battling against, the guy who has the... like, you can see his, like, muscles on the outside and everything. Can't wait to see that guy. The way they put emphasis on it in the intro shows that that's probably going to be a pretty important element of this arc, so can't wait to see that in action. Really, what more can I say? This episode was awesome in every single way. I also love that possibly Class B might get involved in some of the shenanigans. They make an appearance at the beginning of the episode with Momona being just a complete douche as he always is, and Itsuka doing what she does best, which is just knocking him out all the time. Hopefully we'll get to see them interact with Class A a little bit more, but otherwise, as far as I'm concerned, this was a perfect episode from beginning to end. I can't count the ways I loved this episode right here, so I'm giving it a 5 out of 5. My Hero Academia has officially returned, and you guys need to check it out. That's my thoughts on the episode. I'd love to get yours. Make sure to tell me all of them in the comments section below. Tell me what you thought about this episode. If you had any favorite moments. Do you have a favorite character from Class A? And what do you hope to see from the summer camp training arc? Thank you guys for watching this review. I'll see you guys next time. And as always, Plus Ultra!